Welcome back to chemistry. This is Mrs. Schroeder, and we're going to cover section 4, how to count atoms and what the mole is. The mole in chemistry is not a little creature with fur and kind of ugly face. The mole in chemistry is a very important unit that we're going to be using for counting throughout the year. Atoms are very small. We know that an atom of copper has a mass of about 1 times 10 to the negative 25th kilograms. Now, it's not a convenient number. Nobody likes to use scientific notation. You guys know that. It's difficult to use sometimes, and it's kind of hard to get your mind around how small it is. So, in the last section, section 2, we start talking about the atomic mass unit. This unit, called 1 AMU, is equivalent to 1 kilogram is 6.02 times 10 to the 26th AMU, or the following conversion. So you can convert back and forth between kilograms to AMUs, but for the most part we can use AMUs as atomic mass units. Now, when we count objects, what you see here is a donut. It's one donut. Okay. What if we have 12 donuts? How many is that? Well, it's a lot more. You don't usually go to the counter and say, I'd like to buy 12 donuts. You usually say, I'd like to buy 1 dozen. Why? Because a dozen is an easier number to say. It's a counting number. And a dozen means 12 no matter what you have. Whether I have a dozen eggs or a dozen donuts or a dozen of anything, I know what that means is 12. Well, in chemistry we have a counting unit called the mole. And a mole is similar to a dozen when you think about it. It's a counting unit. Now, it's much bigger than a dozen, but it's just a way of counting and categorizing numbers, or how many of something you have. It's defined as the number of atoms in 12 grams of carbon-12, the specific isotope carbon-12. We have what's called Avogadro's number. We'll go more into this in class. And I know 1 mole is this huge number, 1.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. Now, a dozen was 12. A mole is a lot more. But it still tells you how many atoms you have. Now, we also know that not all atoms have the same mass. We've just done that in section 2 with molar mass. And we look at the periodic table and we find the different atoms have different masses. Carbon has a mass of 12.01. Sulfur has a mass of 32. So we know that 1 mole of these atoms is going to have a different mass. Sulfur is going to have more mass than carbon because each atom is heavier in sulfur than it's in carbon. So here's some different things. Tells you how different quantities can be measured. Now, moles are going to be the heart of chemistry. We need to understand moles and how to do them. But back in lab, we can't count out atoms. We can't measure 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. So when we're in lab, we can measure the mass of something. We measure that in grams. Now, the mass in grams, if we want to try to figure out how many moles something is, when we're back in lab, we take the mass of something off our scale. We want to convert that to moles, or we have know how many moles we have, we want to convert to mass to know how much we need to measure out. So pause for a second, write this down, how to find it. We're going to set up conversion factors using the molar mass. And this molar mass is from the periodic table. So, for example, if I have 2.5 moles of carbon and I want to know what the mass is of that, I would look at my periodic table. For carbon, I have 12.011 grams for every mole. Now, what I need to do is take 2.5 times 12.011, and I know that that would be 30.0 grams of carbon. Another example, if I'm trying to find out how many moles are in 24 grams of helium, I go to the periodic table and I found out that helium is 4.0026 grams for every mole. Now notice I divided that. Why did I do that? So that my units will cancel. You always want your units to cancel, just like we did in our conversions. So now I take 24 divided by 4.0026, and I get 5.996, or I could round it off to 6.0 moles. What I'd like you to do is go to your book on page 102 and try these problems. See if you can get the answers to these. We'll go over in class how to do it. The first one, the answer is 238. The second one is 1.2 grams. And the third one is 0.84 grams. Or the second part of it is 0.86 moles. I just wrote that backwards. So try those on your own and see if you can come up with the answers. We'll talk about them in class and spend some time doing some more practice problems about this in class. See you tomorrow.